Hi, I'm Eileen Cunningham, president of Meyer Tool, a small woman-owned manufacturing firm, second generation leadership. Our passion here is manufacturing for a positive impact on the world this generation and beyond. I am a second generation leader. My dad started Meyer Tool back in 1969. Before Meyer Tool even existed, he was a machinist at Argonne National Laboratory, where they worked on crazy cool stuff for their national, basic science initiatives. And that's where he really learned to machine this complex equipment that we are known for today. Initially, there were some layoffs at Argonne, and he saw that, despite his seniority, they might be coming his way. So he actually bought a machine, put it in his garage, and started doing work on a part-time basis out of our garage, with Argonne actually being one of his first customers. He would bid on the projects they were subbing out, and he was awarded it, and then unfortunately, when the layoffs actually hit and he was affected, he came home and told my mom, Catherine, and she was a stay-at-home mom, 5 young children to feed, and he said, I'm just gonna do this thing full-time. So he incorporated Meyer Tool in 1969, which means we've been building this crazy cool stuff for over 50 years. My dad's whole premise was, if you could machine one thing, you could machine anything. And so he wasn't a big fan of being involved in, machining 1,000 screws or high production stuff. So he really stayed with his roots at Argonne and expanded into supporting all the national labs across the country, international labs, university market. And so that's where we got some of our start as cryogenic vacuum and pressure specialists.
We have a bunch of little tubing spools in here that we had Shannon weld in. You can see we put a bunch of them in here. There's actually another chamber underneath there you can look up. Yeah. So she welded all of these in. Then we leak test them, make sure there's no leaks. Once they're leak tested, we can put all this MLI on it, insulation, to keep it at the right temperature. Right now, he's actually just installing these wires before we do any more welding, but you can see we got this giant seam here. All of this was TIG brazed in last week by hand. And then we got a whole other, we're gonna put another one of these up here, and then we're gonna put it inside a giant shell, and you're not gonna see anything on the inside of it. So it's very important that every step of the way we test everything. We have to test the wires when it routes them, we have to weld it, we have to test the wires again, we have to leak check it, make sure there's no leaks. Every single weld we stop and do it. Leak test, wire test, and cold shock test. So we use Inventor to help us orientate this thing. Obviously this goes on a certain way, so we have to make sure that this pipe and that pipe are all correctly oriented so that the top shell can fit on. And then all that's oriented so that it can fit all the inner spooling. So we gotta make sure it's all oriented correctly. We gotta hit tight tolerances here. We make really, cool stuff, but it also is very confusing. So we need something like Inventor to keep us, competitive with it.
I was being groomed as a successor in 2005, 2006 when my dad, had his untimely illness, and I've taken over since then. Today, we are grooming our 3rd generation successor. So we have 3 people who have stepped up and want to be next generation leaders. You'll be meeting them in the video. Kenny Jr., Christian, and Eric.
Kenny Urban, machine shop supervisor here at Meyer Tool. I'm in charge of the machine shop, but I'm also in charge of the IT section within the building. When it came to our software, we were always using Autodesk for Inventor, but we wanted to bring ourselves into the next technology in the machine shop. So that's when we started to implement CAM. With CAM, we picked up Fusion 360 first. And now almost all my guys out on the shop floor use Fusion 360, along with the engineers. The engineers also use Inventor. And then with our 5-axis, now that we have a 5-axis machine, I use PowerMill. NexGen's been able to help me with that based on the knowledge that they share with best practices, with their tickets of troubleshooting. I can send a ticket in and have some of the best people come forward and be able to show me how to get the job done. It was the seamless capability of having an Inventor file, an IPT file, be able to open up in Fusion 360, or let's say PowerMill. Because we use the same platform, all of our work could be interchangeable. This fixture, this is actually a fixture, it's not even a part. The part is just a piece of sheet metal that's fit back. And as you can see, he's got Fusion up here.
So I'm Christian Cunningham. I'm the manager of the business development team here at Meyer Tool Manufacturing. So we're a woman-owned business who's been building the impossible for the last 50 years, right? We mainly specialize in vacuum, pressure, and cryogenic technologies, but that's not what we're limited to, right? We have diversified solutions that from engineering to machining, welding, and testing that allow us to build anything that you would have to offer. Yeah, and so the way we build the impossible is our reduced project risk process. So what that is we work collaboratively with customers from the quotation phase through the entire fabrication of the job. Many times when things come in here, before they leave, they may look completely different than what the customer had anticipated, right? We are no stranger to working with customers through 2, 3, even 4 design iterations here at Meyer Tool, and that's what really makes the difference and separates us from other manufacturers.
So we got these things here, the helium mass spectrometer. Fancy way of saying it, it's a leak detector. What it does here is it pulls vacuum on anything we have, our vacuum vessels, any type of shell, any type of vessel, we can pull vacuum on it using this machine. And it's built to sense helium, our second smallest element. So, you know, if helium can fit in there, it's a leak. If helium can't fit in there, probably not a leak. So what it does is it's connected to a vessel, say, we can pump this down and I can spray this weld here. And then if this machine yells at me, that means I'm spraying outside with helium. It knows that helium is getting through here.
Sucking the helium through the weld,
going in the machine
and letting you know there's a leak inside the weld.
This thing, it knows when the helium's in the system, so it'll scream it. You gotta fix it. And how do we fix it? We either grind it out, weld over it, or we just get a whole new one, you know? So pretty helpful machine, especially for the line of work we have here, because everything we do has to be leak tight.
All right. My name's Ed Bonema. I'm VP here at Meyer. I've been here close to 35 years, not quite yet. And Inventor fits in our workflow very well. It fits in at the front end when we're quoting. It also fits in during the design phase and during the jobs. So when a quote or a request comes in from a customer to engineering, we may have 2 different ways we use Inventor. One is when we get just a step file, generally, from a customer with no drawings. It may be complex, it may be simple, but it takes a little bit of time to pull that into Inventor, convert it to an assembly, disassemble it into the parts, and work out exactly what they want us to build. Then also sometimes we get design builds, where it may be a simple thing or a complex thing that we have to model the components together to make sure things fit before we feel comfortable quoting it. And then of course in the design phase, if we're designing and building something, we're using either customer models or our own models to develop fabrication prints for the shop. And then also vetting models for the shop so they can use that direct from CAM to CAD, or CAD to CAM, excuse me, in the machine shop. Seeing something that was a 3D model or a napkin sketch translated into a really value-added part that goes out the door and changes the world. Whether that's in a particle accelerator or a semiconductor application, or they're making jumbotrons or a medical device. We build the impossible and we change the world in a positive way. This very complex item that we have actually been building since the 1990s, variations of this, and you can see this is very complex cryostat. This has variously been modeled by us and by the customer and translated into a set of manufacturing drawings, and it's something that should take about 2 years to build. The pandemic kind of interrupted us in our last build, but still you can see how complex that is. This is a huge file with thousands of individual parts, and this is a cross section.
So we feel that we also fulfill my dad's legacy on the people component. He cared very much for the Meyer Tool family, his second family. We know that our strength is definitely in our people. So most of our projects do span the variety of departments. Every hand pretty much has been able to touch every project. So we all feel fulfilled when something goes out the door. What we do can be pretty tough some days. We're a lot of problem solving, challenges out there on the floor. And so we really try to maintain that friendly, collaborative atmosphere, that family atmosphere in here, so that everyone feels comfortable asking questions, everyone feels comfortable brainstorming and problem solving, and then, that's how we build the impossible. That's how we get it to come together. We do really embody that whole knowledge sharing and skill development and continuous improvement here, and that's a lot where like NexGen comes in, because you guys are providing us with your latest technology, and that's the tools that our employees need to work smarter, not harder, and to be able to continue moving forward on that next generation and the harder stuff that comes our way.